Hello and welcome to another episode of Head Over the Footy. My name is Max Hatzoglou. Thanks for tuning in. Today's video is going to be, or today's episode I should say, and video is going to be about an opinion video. So I've got a few bugbears which I want to address, the future of AFL home grounds, set shot kicking, Carlton are not a top 4 team, and the rule changes that they should have made but didn't. So plenty there to discuss. Let's hop straight into it. All right, starting off with bugbears. I watched the Carlton and Melbourne game last night at Icon Park, just a little practice match. And my first few games that I've watched this season, and already I was quite frustrated. These 50-metre penalties which they give just do not make me happy at all. And you see these little infringements of the rules, and you're seeing these big penalties being given for them. I just think it's not the right thing by our game to be awarding 50-metre penalties, taking a player within 30 metres of goal, and it's for a little protected area, they've run through it. Like, it's just such a minor offence, and the punishment for it is quite ridiculous. I know that players shouldn't be making these errors, but let's introduce something like a 25-metre penalty for a protected area infringement, because it's so minor, the infringement, that it just does my head in. Your own team, when you're watching them, if you're the one that's having to deal with these infringements, how frustrating is it for fans? So I think that they could find a way to maybe... I've been onto this 25-metre penalty for a long time, and in my personal view, I don't want many rule changes in the game, but if there was one to bring in, it'd be that one, because a 50-metre penalty is such a big punishment, and it's something that I'd like to see change. The other one that really does my head in, and later on in the show, by the way, we're going to be talking about the rule changes that should have been made but weren't. So this is sort of a similar thing, but these have been really doing my head in recent times, and this one is the warning for 666. If a team has stuffed up and they haven't got 666, well, just give a free kick. The warning takes about 3 seconds. We see the umpire take a few steps towards the team's ruck who has not been ready for the 666. Let's just give a free kick. Get the game moving. It annoys me, really, and I assume that it annoys a lot of fans out there as well. So that's another one that's really doing my head in at the moment, and just from watching the first few games in 2024, already it's caught up with me. So there are a few bugbears of mine, and hopefully the higher-ups at the AFL are watching and can get these changes made. And we do see sometimes in season, we saw with the dissent rule, which we'll talk about later in the show, we saw that get tweaked and the interpretation by umpires changed that a bit. So we don't have to wait till the end of the season. Some of these changes can be made immediately. So we'll see what the AFL does. Just going to pause the episode there. We're going to talk AFL footy tipping here at Head Over the Footy. We've got our own competition. Now, the best thing about it is it doesn't matter if you miss a round of tipping, because Mort's Meats Tipster of the Round prize is there to be won on a weekly basis. So thanks to Mort's Meats, he's jumped on board as a sponsor, and you can win that prize on a weekly basis. The hardest part about all this is joining. So I'm going to explain to you now how to join. It's pretty simple. You just got to enter the URL, which we've posted on our social media on Instagram. Enter that. It's like tipping.afl.com.au, something like that. Enter that into your web browser. Then you're going to have to log in if you've got an account. If you don't have an account, just make one. This is the official AFL tipping website, by the way. So just make an account on that if you don't have one. Then once you've made an account, you go to competitions and you join a competition. So you'll see all that there. And once you press join a competition, you got to enter a comp code. So we've got our own code, and you'll be able to find that on our Instagram page where we've posted the footy tipping graphic. I'll put a link down the bottom to our Instagram page. Just click on that link and you'll find that post. There's a comp code in there. Enter that in, and then bang, you're in the Head Over the Footy tipping competition. And it should be a cracker. We've got more than 25 people in the comp already, so it's going to be excited throughout the season. we're going to be talking about our tipping, and we're going to discuss some of the good tipsters and how they've gone, and maybe a few interesting tips as well. So we'll give some mentions there, and make sure you jump on, because I don't want you missing out on a lot of fun there. So the season is starting next Thursday. It's less than a week away now, so make sure you jump on and join that footy tipping competition. Hopefully that all made sense, and we'll see you there. All right, now we're going to be talking about the future of AFL home grounds. I believe in 20 to 30 years, I think in 20 years we'll see the first one, but after that, there's going to be a flow-on effect. I think all the AFL clubs and their home grounds, especially some of the bigger clubs, they'll be playing men's games there. Men's home games will be played at the likes of Icon Park, Arden Street Oval, maybe Olympic Park where Collingwood train, I think, and Punt Road Oval as well, to name another one. I think these grounds are going to be used as home grounds by these big clubs in 20 years' time. I think Icon Park, we're seeing a lot of AFL games being played there already, and I think that ground will be the first one where we see a lot of AFL men's home games being played to start off with. Carlton will obviously play their home games there. Other clubs won't. It'll just be Carlton. But they won't only use Marvel, especially Carlton, who have Marvel as their priority home ground. They're going to want to play at Icon Park. They've got, what's Marvel, 60k capacity compared to Icon Park, 40k, 30k. I think it's they have 18k at Icon Park. But we're going to see upgrades by the time we get to, what is it now? It's 2024. So I think by the time we get to 2050, that ground isn't going to be an 18k capacity stadium. It's going to be way bigger than that. And they're going to make upgrades to it, and it's going to turn into an AFL ground. We're seeing AFLW games being played at these grounds, Arden Street Oval, Icon Park. We saw many finals being played on that ground. And even the grand final from memory was played at Icon Park. So they're going to receive upgrades to these grounds, and they're going to turn into home grounds for men's games as well. So that's a bold prediction. I don't even think it's a bold prediction. I think it hasn't been spoken about, but by 2050, 2060, the AFL will become more territorial. It will be like the English Premier League. It's going to move closer towards that in terms of where home grounds and home games are played for clubs. I think Olympic Park in that Melbourne Sporting Capital Precinct, that's going to turn into a bit of a stadium. It's not going to be the way it is now, and I reckon Collingwood, they'll even be playing some home games there. Arden Street Oval, that'll turn into a little bit of a stadium, and rather than playing at Marvel all the time or the MCG, there's going to be more grounds to play at, and the AFL will become more territorial, and that's going to increase rivalries and make it more entertaining, I believe. So I think the AFL should really be looking at this. I reckon that they already are. It's just barely been spoken about in the media. So you're hearing it first here at Head Over the Footy. The AFL will become more territorial by 2050. Just going to pause the episode there because we're going to talk about our new podcast. Every Monday, myself, Max Hatzoglou, Will Faulkner and Anna Pavlou will be on to discuss all the things that are happening from the weekend and all the games. It's going to be a cracker. I'm really looking forward to it. A bit of conversation. And, it's going to be a really exciting time for us at Head Over the Footy. So I don't want you to miss it. Make sure every Monday you tune into that show. We record it during the day and then post it straight after as soon as we can. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and I look forward to enjoying those times with you. Okay, the next part of this show is going to be a little bit Carlton focused. So we're going to talk about set shot kicking. Then we're going to get into why Carlton aren't a top 4 team. And there's a few things that we're going to discuss in all of this. So we did speak about Carlton just before as well, Icon Park obviously, and that's their home ground. So a lot of Carlton stuff in today's show. They played last night against Melbourne, had a 38-point loss. But in that game, and what I want to talk about in this segment is Harry Mackay, his set shot kicking. He kicked 3 goals last night, had a really good game, 18 behinds, 10 marks, played in the ruck, gave Mark Pidden a chop out, did a really good job, and he had a really good game. But he missed 2 out on the full. He had 1 behind, and that could cost Carlton a spot in a grand final. It could cost Carlton a spot in the top 4. Now, the other reason why I think Carlton, well, this is the main reason why I think Carlton weren't a top 4 team, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I just want to focus on Harry Mackay right now. And he should consider, and other players that can't kick for goal, because it's been seen across the AFL preseason this year, set shot kicking is not good. Players that can't take set shots should consider passing the ball off to someone else. Could be via handball, could be via kick. But I want to see more of these players who can't take set shots or they're struggling with it. I want to see them handballing the ball to the likes of someone who can kick the ball, and let's see more goals going through. That's something, if I was Carlton right now and Harry Mackay, I'd be discussing that, because he's kicking 3 goals a game, but he's missing 3. So he should actually have 6 goals every single game. But because he's struggling in front of goal, he's missing these chances, and they're very costly. Carlton last night lost by 38 points. In season, they're going to lose some tight games by 2 goals, 3 goals. And it's going to come down to set shots. So if they're serious about all this, I'd start looking to handball the ball if you're Harry Mackay and you're taking a set shot from 40 metres out, 30 metres out, because he's just struggling at the moment, and it takes the pressure off him. I don't think there's anything to be embarrassed about by doing this. Obviously, you'd love to be able to kick these goals yourself, but if you're able to handball the ball and increase the likelihood of your team getting a goal, well, let's do it. And that'll increase the value of Harry Mackay. He's already so valuable, but if he's able to take these marks inside 50 and increase his conversion from taking those marks inside 50, well, 1, he's going to become a star player. 2, Carlton's going to win more games of footy. And 3, they're going to be a really good team that could win a premiership. But at the moment, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if they're there. There's a few parts, and we'll get right into it. Carlton are not a top 4 team. Last night they played a Melbourne team that's under the pump at the moment. There was rumours circulating everywhere yesterday about their coach getting the sack. Those rumours were shut down. Clayton Oliver isn't there. Culture problems. Presidents in a feud with the club. They're all over the shop, Melbourne. And Carlton, who have been talked about as one of the teams that's going to win a premiership in 2024. They should be the favourites. There's all this talk. Last night, that performance was not a performance of a team that will win a premiership. That was a performance of a team that will scrape into the 8. And I don't know if they'll make the top 4, Carlton. They've got a promising list. They've got a lot of good players. They should be hitting the best of their form over the last decade now, which they are. But I don't know if it's good enough to win a premiership. I think top 4, they're pushing for it after last night's performance. They got smashed in the inside 50 count, and they couldn't get the ball forward. They struggled. Melbourne almost doubled their inside 50 count. It was 65-43 Carlton, but it was worse than this. If they didn't get those last few inside 50s at the end of the game, it would have looked worse. And Melbourne just had more of the ball, got it forward more, and they looked a better team. And this is a team that's struggling at the moment. We saw how inconsistent Carlton were last year. I think they won 9 or 10 games straight, but they lost 6 before then, I believe, from memory. So they need to really step it up this year. They've got that consistency, which will be the biggest thing for them this year, I believe. They're going to have to put together some really good games, and they can't go on a run of 5 straight losses, and they're going to struggle to win 10 straight games again. So they're going to really have to find that happy medium, and they're going to want to make sure that that is at a sustainable level, because they're going to have to win a lot of games if they want to make the top 4. And at the moment, going off last night's game against Melbourne, I'm not sure if they're able to get that done, the top 4. So it's an interesting talking point at the moment, Carlton. Obviously, it's such a good list. And Michael Voss, he's just signed on. So let's see how it all plays out. I think it's going to be an interesting space to watch. A lot of talk about them this season. Let's see if they can bring it all together and potentially push push for a premiership. Hey guys, just going to pause the episode there because I want to talk to you about our last episode. We partnered with Collaborative Sports Media, and in that episode I spoke about why I started Head Over the Footy. So if you want to know a little bit about the background to all of this, make sure you watch that episode. And we announced our new podcast there. I spoke about what inspired me to start Head Over the Footy. And hopefully you enjoy that episode. So go check it out. All right, let's crack into the rule changes they should have made but didn't. So, starting off with scrapping the ruck nomination. Yes, this is just a great rule, and they didn't announce it in the rule changes when they came out about a month ago. But umpires go into a stoppage. The ball's going to get balled up, and they have to take 2 seconds to work out that Max Gawn is rucking against Darcy Cameron. Seriously, we know who's rucking. We don't need a ruck nomination. And the reason why it was brought in was to stop the third man from going up. Well, why do we need to nominate the ruck? Just go ball up the ball, 2 players, one from one team, one from the other. You ball it up. Only one from each team is allowed to go up in the ruck. If a third person goes up, you look at their jersey and you go, he's playing for Melbourne. Free kick against Melbourne. It's as simple as that. Scrap the ruck nomination. It's common sense not to have it in the game. I don't know why it was introduced. They probably just wanted to make sure that the third man would stop going up, which now is never the case. We never see a third man go up. So that rule can get kicked out of the game. And look, to be honest, I don't know if we've seen the umpires nominating rucks this season. So maybe they have already scrapped it, but they just didn't announce it. But that's certainly something that the rule change they should have made, but didn't. Going on to another one is allowing players to run further than 15 metres. Yes, I've been onto this rule since I don't know when, but we see great moments in our game, and a lot of them are from time. Well, look, whenever someone goes for a long run, they take 3 bounces. Mick McGuan, in that premiership Collingwood won years ago, he took, I think, 6, 7, 8 bounces. I don't know how many he took, but that was one of the greatest goals of all time. He won goal of the year for it. He took 6+ bounces, and people still talk about it to this day. Now, we want to see more of those moments, and by increasing the length that players can run, will increase the likelihood of seeing these great moments, players going for long runs. We saw Buddy Franklin kick that amazing goal years ago from the pocket playing against Essendon. He ran about 40 metres. Everyone knows about that goal. It was a great moment, and there's many other good moments in the game where we've seen players run long distances and score amazing goals. So we love the game. We love the game being played at a fast pace. We see that a lot these days. A rule change which the AFL could have made but didn't was certainly increasing the length that players can run further than 15 metres. But let's make it 20 metres. Players can run 20 metres. I just think it's a great rule. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I'd love to know why, but I don't know a reason for why this rule wouldn't be a good one. And the AFL should announce it ASAP. Another rule here is the dissent rule. Last year, they brought it in. Players were penalised for putting their arms out when an umpire made a decision. Now, you looked at that in round 3. It was paid a 50-metre penalty. You looked at it in round 19, and it wasn't paid. What have I written here? It was so clear last year. Rule wasn't implemented, so why have it? Exactly. Why have this dissent rule when it's not even going to get implemented? It sets a bad precedence for other rules. So scrap the rule. We don't need a dissent rule. I think the old rule used to be abuse. The umpire used to say abuse, 50-metre penalty. You just put your arm out, abuse, yeah, come with me. That's the rule. We don't need a dissent rule. It's another rule on top of another rule. Like, we just don't need it in our game. It's just going to confuse it. And the fact that, the other reason why I don't want this dissent rule, because it's had such a bad history. It got brought in, there was an outrage, and then it got scrapped. Well, they changed the interpretation of the rule. Well, that's what they should have announced this year. They should have announced that we're changing the interpretation of the rule. Players are allowed to disagree with umpires, but do it in a respectful way. And if they're not, well, that's dissent. But dissent, what's the difference? Like, what's the difference between dissent and the abuse? Like, it can fall under the same rule, same category. We don't need two separate rules, because now the abuse rule, like, when does that ever get given? Like, that was always given when players would show disrespect. They'd complain about a decision in an unfair way, and that would be like abuse. So it sets a bad precedence, this rule. Let's just make it clear. Let's not introduce too many rules into our game. And it was a rule change that I thought they should have made but didn't, and that is to scrap it and just let it fall all under one category in the abuse rule. So plenty there. Sorry if I've confused you, but certainly I think that should have been a rule change that should have been made. Anyway, that is going to wrap up the show today. We spoke about a number of things. The Bugbears' future of AFL home ground, set shot kicking. Carlton are not a top 4 team, and the rule changes that should have been made but weren't. So hope you enjoyed this episode. It was an opinion sort of video, and we've got plenty more coming here at Head Over the Footy. And of course, we'll see you on Monday for our first episode with Anna Pavlou and Will Faulkner. It's going to be a great one. Catch you there.